All right. Okay. So let's dive in. Okay. All right. Okay. So one of the first questions that's worth considering is, what is authenticity, right? This is one of these words that is thrown around a lot. And does it even mean? And what does it mean in terms of leadership? So let's just take a moment, a minute or two, and I just want to invite people to kind of reflect on their own. If you want to write a little bit, feel free. If you just want to think about it, go for it, and then we'll just take another few minutes to share a little bit about what authentic leadership is for you, or what authenticity is for you. You can speak to either. Okay, so just take another 30 seconds or so, or if you feel ready, you can start to make your way back. Good. Anybody want to say anything right off the bat?
I wrote down, if I'm unable to be true to myself 100%, then that will affect my ability to be true to others. So I have to be authentic with myself first before that can come out of me and go towards others. Right? So it has to come from within first before it can be spread outward.
Beautiful, beautiful, cool. Yeah. Dale, and then Veronica.
Sure. I'm going to piggyback a little bit on Andrea's. I think authenticity is all about, authentic leadership is about the style that the leader is most comfortable with or is true to them. I think a lot of times, from a corporate perspective, authentic leadership is meant to be, and they've got this list of things you have to be authentic. That's not authentic to the leader. That's authentic to the people at the company who want it to be that way. And if you're forced into that box, then you're not really being authentic. So, but I also think authentic leadership should be a two-way street where you're working. Gone are the days when the leader tells people to do something, they do it. I think it's a two-way street where you're working with the people that you are leading to understand what authentic means for the both of you, as opposed to having a top-down, corporate speak. This is what authenticity means, type of thing.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Veronica. Yeah.
So I wrote down for furthering your cause by way of directing and guiding a group of people from your heart. So heartfully.
Beautiful. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Anybody else want to contribute anything? Say anything?
May I?
Yeah. Go for it.
I really, really like what Dale said. And so I was thinking, for me, authenticity is being the same person in each area of my life. So if my church family sees me, but also like my friends or people in my work, none of them will say, oh, Nicole is different in this situation. I want to be the same person in every area.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, kind of a consistency in how you show up.
Yeah, like emotional stability, consistency. Yeah, I like the word consistency. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, Kim.
In the beginning, I had said that I'm not in any sort of leadership role, but it is interesting when you really think about it. I was in one for about 10 years, not knowing what I was doing. That shut down and so on. And I found myself jumping into a minimum wage job because I'm sort of one to worry about things. So, of course, instead of waiting, I jumped into a job with some prospects, let's say, but found myself there longer than I expected. So you're getting older, you find yourself feeling like, wow, this is like when I was 16. And I was working in a drugstore and worked in various areas, finally ending up at the back in the pharmacy, still minimum wage. And even there, it is interesting how you do find sort of your own authentic leadership in a sense, because you're developing relationships with people, some you're seeing every single day coming in, but you also see the leadership that they bring with them. And many times those same people are not people that we would typically think of as leaders. Let's say you're learning things every single day in that small encounter. So you kind of add that to your being and any sense of, I guess you could call it leadership. They've shared something about themselves with you, and you take that on, and so I guess it is everywhere in a way, like you say. It's not a diploma on the wall. I guess it's something you grow. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. The other thing I'm hearing in what you shared is that there's a, well, and also this was implicit in what you shared, Dale, but that interaction, and that there's something about the interaction that can nourish or challenge authenticity, right? Certainly bring questions up. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Kim. Anybody else? Okay, yeah, go for it, Margaret.
So, like, if you ask right away, it just jumped to my head, and right away I thought that's authentic leadership is when I am the light of the world, and at the same time I resist my perfection. So that's,
Yes.
to provide the authentic leadership.
Beautiful. So there's an embracing of the kind of letting your light shine, and then at the same time watching that the maybe push towards needing to be perfect, or the dance of needing to be perfect to be seen or to be good enough, and letting that go. Is that at all what you were saying?
Yeah, and accept the critic about myself, and at the same time to be light. That's what I wanted.
Beautiful. Nice. Yeah, I love that. That's so being receptive to feedback and adjustments and or criticism can be a word that's a little bit harsh, but nonetheless, not letting that dim the fact that that you as a human being have a light to shine. Yeah, beautiful, really beautiful. Okay, so yeah, just for me, authenticity and authenticity is about genuinely being in touch with what my core desires and values are, and then really acting, saying, doing, living in alignment with those. And then I think authentic leadership emerges naturally from that, when we're really connected deeply with who we are and what we value, that we inherently value just that process, and then can hold space for others to step into that same experience for themselves. Yeah, so I mean, I do get a little, maybe I appreciated what you shared, Margaret. I can also be more on the poetic, maybe idealist side of things, but I do really believe that at our core, each of us, our true heart's desires are pure and beautiful and meant to be brought forth in the world. And I think even in those situations where there's kind of, I think sometimes we run into layers, and I think at the core, we all basically want to be loved and love others and, you know, realize our unique way of interacting with the world, because each of us is a unique, very unique human who has unique gifts to bring forth. And sometimes we get caught in the layers of getting to that, right? So, you know, not to say that making money is a bad thing, but getting super wealthy can sometimes be a goal on the way to really fully being in touch with self and expressing self, right? Or it's a part of that process, in my experience and opinion. Okay, any last thoughts or anything before anybody wants, or before we dive into a little exercise here? Yeah, Dale.
I think just listening to everybody speak and what you had said as well, I think also to a certain degree, to be an authentic leader, you actually have to own up to the reason why you wanted to be a leader in the first place, right? You know, I've had bosses that were real jerks, right? But that's who they are, and you know what? That is authentic for them. You know, you know, I've seen leaders where they only want to be a leader because of the pay bump. You can tell, but if you have to be honest with that, with yourself and the people you're leading. If the people you're leading know you're going to be an absentee boss and you're only the boss because you want to make more money, well then fine, we can deal with that, right? Versus if you're doing this as an ego boost, then at least we know why you're doing what you're doing. Authenticity doesn't have to be good or feel good for those being led, but it has to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. At least when there's kind of alignment between inner and outer, it feels better for everybody, even if it's kind of creepy memes or creepy motivation or whatever. It still feels better if people are upfront about it. Okay, interesting. Yeah, thanks. Okay, cool. Let's dive into a little reflective exercise here. Okay, so we're gonna take 5 minutes, and you know, I think my sense of this group is that probably you are people who have, and no judgment if you're not, but that you have spent time reflecting on this, maybe quite a bit, maybe quite recently. Nonetheless, it's never a bad idea to go further or just do it again. You'll find new layers emerge possibly, and or just reaffirm and anchor in those that are most important. So we're just going to take 5 minutes, and that is a little long. Maybe it might be a little bit less, but it's long on purpose so that we can kind of get through the layers and then maybe get a little bit under that. And just journal on, and I'll put these up on the screen in a moment here. I'll screen share something, but either on completing any of these 3 sentences. So what I most want is ... What matters most to me is ... Or my true heart's call, this is language that resonates for me, is ... And or if there's other language that resonates for you, go for it. Okay, I'm gonna put those up on the screen though here in a moment. And I'm keeping my eye on the clock. Hi Hussein, welcome back. Thanks for letting us know. We've just dove into an exercise, exploring. We're taking 5 minutes or so to just write, journal, and I really do invite everybody to no right, no wrong, just go. Try to decensor, uncensor, open, flow as much as possible on, okay, you know what, I'm actually just gonna put it in the chat here. So what I most want is, you can journal on any of these or something comparable. Yeah, so I would, if you're feeling done, I would encourage you to just keep writing a little bit, even if it just means repeating what you've already written. Yeah, I haven't actually contextualized it that much yet, Hussein, so I will after. Thank you for that. But basically just reminding what is genuinely important to you as a foundation for authentic leadership. So we're just taking 5 minutes to journal, stream of consciousness style on this. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your question. And yeah, just take another minute here. Yeah, see if you can keep going. Might be repetitive, that's fine. You can also perhaps experiment with a different prompt, beginning prompt. Great, and just bringing that to a close. You can also continue to add to it as we go if you want to. Yeah, okay, I guess I will just share the following. Hang on, let me screen share for a moment here. Okay. Let's go desktop here. Okay, I won't stay long. And this drives me crazy when people screen share for too long. Okay, all right, so, oops, no, actually I did want to go back. Okay, so just to say that for me, when I work with clients, this is kind of the outline of the system that I use. Okay, so there's basically 3 components, I think, to really impactful and internally experienced and then externally experienced authenticity when it comes to leadership. So we look at vision firstly, and that is what we're doing in this exercise. We're looking at, okay, what is the core of your vision for your life? Vision being what is important to you, what's important to you in terms of the world you want to live in, and what's important in terms of how you want to show up and engage with that world. So that's what so my goal was for the 90 minutes to touch on each of these, do one exercise in each of these spheres. So vision, voice being communication, and then action. So that ability to execute. So yeah, but we're starting with vision because I really believe that that's foundational. And yeah, we're gonna go a little bit further with what we just did here. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, perfect. All right, so all right, okay, before we move into the next part of the exercise, because one of the really tricky things then with vision is for one, it can be tricky to even know truly deeply what we want inside, and it can be scary to know truly deeply what we want inside, right? Because then it means once we fully accept and take ownership for our desires and what's important to us, it then demands of us that we actually live and act on that, right? And to not do so is damaging to ourselves, right? It's hard. So very often we'll rather than come to the realization of the truth and not act on it or risk that, sometimes we prefer to not even become aware of what that true desire is. So that's why often there's layers that we're not totally aware of. The other piece of the puzzle is that society, families, friends, loved ones all have their own ideas in terms of what we should want. And it can sometimes be very tricky to discern what you authentically want versus what society is telling you should want, or your family conditioning is telling you should want, or your biology is telling you should want, right? Okay, wonderful. So the next step here that we're going to explore is to go through what you have written and just do a little bit of discerning. What has more the quality of a genuine desire that's really true to you, and versus what might be something that actually maybe your family wants for you, but you don't really want, or something that an intimate partner really wants, but maybe you don't really want, right? So but before we do that, we're gonna use the body, because what I didn't share at the beginning is actually my background is as a dancer and mover, and my joy is leveraging this miraculous organism to support leadership or whatever our goal is in the situation. Okay, great. So let's just start. We're just going to kind of, actually, let's just stretch. Okay, so big, you can do it sitting, but big breath in and reach all the way up. Good. Interlock fingers and just press palms away. Good. And just lift your chest. Good. And as you do that, wiggle your butt down in the seat. So you're pulling in opposite directions, tailbone and sit bones rooting down into your hands, reaching up. Good. Okay. Exhale. Just let those hands melt down. Good. Beautiful. Circle shoulders up to ears and down. And again. And one more time. Good. Okay. And then we're just going to massage out the face a little bit. Okay. So just use fingers, give temples a little bit of a rub, give forehead or eyebrows a little bit of a rub, jaw, a little bit of a squeeze, cheeks. Good. Get into that third eye. Good. Give your hair and scalp a little bit of a wake up with fingertips or nails. Good. So sometimes we forget that our body is the whole of the body is a perceiving machine. Okay, and there's a lot of wisdom housed within these 30 trillion living cells that make up this thing we call a body. Okay, great. Let's give your lower body a little bit of friction and attention. Just realize, oh, I have a lower body. It's here. This is me. These legs, these knees, these shins. Yeah, beautiful. Maybe rubbing one foot on top of the other. Just giving them a little bit of sensation. Good. Okay, great. Then wiggle those feet into the floor. Okay, beautiful. All right. Okay. Big breath in and then exhale. Great. Okay, so what I want to invite you to do is we won't take long to do this. This is something you can continue to do after, is to go through that list and just find a way of marking or noting. It might be like different colors, or it might just be a word or some comments next to what you've written. What feels really authentic and what feels less authentic, or we can even take out the word authentic. Actually, if you're present in your body, if you're feeling what's happening in your body as you do this, which feel like they have a sort of expansive, energizing quality, and which feel kind of dead or flat or like kind of a pushy, away-y, very technical term feeling. So good, just take a couple minutes and go through the list. And if you don't have any that are kind of flat or pushy, away-y, then just see if you can think of some influences in your life that are that way. So a tricky one for me to share an example is, and please keep working, you don't have to give this your full attention, but if you feel like you don't have any that you're unsure about, an example for me is, and I'm not sure I would have written this on the list, but it's just an example of an activity in my life that has kind of conflicting feelings around it, and that's around kind of connecting with and supporting friends. It's something that I love to do and want to do, and it is something that I can use to avoid doing what I really want to do, but I'm scared to do. So I don't, that was maybe a bit of a different example. Let me think of another one. Or if anybody else has an example, go for it. Well, here's an example. So I'm a part of a lineage of meditation teachings. And sometimes I can take on what I feel my teachers want for me or want me to do versus what I truly want for myself. So an example of that might be, I think they'd probably be happy if I moved to the meditation center and lived out there. So if I had that on my list, it doesn't really light me up, right? It's something that I think I feel, I mean, also we create a lot of these stories in our own minds, but anyways, that's just an example of that. People who I love and care about, who I want to make happy, but whose desires I don't want to take on, really. Great, so just take another moment or 30 seconds. Great. Okay, does anybody have anything they want to share or speak to here out of this experience? Or struggles or confusion? Yeah, Kim, go for it.
One thing that's interesting about this, I actually really dislike writing. It's a big thing with me. I think I've had to do a lot of it in my life and I don't like it at all. But one thing that came out of this is in trying to, I chose my True Heart's Call and it's hard not to somehow put negative things in there as you're writing it. And I realized one thing I wrote down was, well, at first I said my True Heart's Call is to be a helper. But as I got writing, something I realized about myself is that it's almost an avoidance tactic. So I find myself in helping roles, and sometimes I feel that I almost don't exist without that, if that makes sense. So if you take all that away, what's left? And I'm not sure. So what came from that was, so that's sort of almost when you said about being scared to do what you really want, or, you're doing stuff, whether you choose it or others are kind of pushing you to it. I realized also, in a sense, my True Heart's Call, I don't know. So I don't really have dreams or goals. And I'm not even sure how to start to even think that way.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that, Kim. That is a very courageous and very honest and very universal situation too. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So within that sphere of vision, the very first thing is space, time, whatever, space and or time. Space, I mean psychic space, I mean space in your schedule, I mean space in your life to reflect, which I think is partially why in our world we stay so incredibly busy. I feel this has been a bit recent transition for me, but we do have a tendency to stay so incredibly busy, and that to me points to some avoidance. So that's a great first step, is to where in your life can you give yourself a little bit more space to open to those feelings, ideas, thoughts arriving. And it doesn't have to be writing. It could be sharing with somebody out loud, right? Or speaking into it, or it could be writing, whatever feels good, right? You could dance it. Yeah, thank you. Great share. This brings me a little bit to the point on kind of talking about what we were going to cover tonight when we talk about burnout. So I really believe that the key ingredient around burnout is clarity in terms of your vision, desires, and goals. Because when we have that crystal clarity when it comes to that, then we have the power to actually honor what is important to us, what is most important to us, and we have the ability to withstand the pressures and demands that come at us inevitably, right? But it's really an act of seeing clearly and then honoring. Yeah. Yeah, anybody else want to share thoughts or what came up for them here? Yeah, Dale.
It was interesting as I was doing it, and then interesting also to think about what fell flat. You know, I'll own up to the fact that I'm very corporate. I like it. It's me. I love being in that world. However, you know, some of the things that kind of fell flat, you know, what I want most, what matters most to me, you know, all the one success money, you know, to be the authority, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think really it fell flat for me. And even the whole part of my True Hearts call is, it kind of fell flat for me only because I think all of that really should flow from what I most want and what matters most to me, right? I can't necessarily decide what it is unless I know what I want first, right? And if I'm doing what I want and what I like, everything else really should be flowing from that. You know, a little different from Kim is I like to write, and I never really thought about why, but as I was writing all this down, you know, what I most want is to matter, to be remembered, to make a difference, to make an impact. What matters most to me is to leave an imprint on the world. You know, and the act of writing, to putting it on paper and making it permanent, I think is you know, I never really thought about that, but you know, that's what I'm doing. I'm leaving a record. I'm leaving something of myself in the world, and I think that's why I also want to be a leader. Is one of the things I wrote down was what I want most is to be emulated, to be able to leave something of myself in the world, even after I'm long gone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Dale. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Steve.
I definitely come from a heritage of status and achievement. And so if I were to answer these things from the past, I would have talked about achieving a standard of living, a quality of life that was really about materialism. And what I'm going through is a transition to the quality of relationships in my life. So I don't really care about my professional achievements anymore. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I need to find a new form of authenticity that values relationships, and maybe a professional life that is geared towards that. I don't know. So it's not exactly on target with what you're asking about, but it's in terms of what's coming from my heart. That's where I'm at right now. Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah, beautiful. Sounds like great clarity there. Yeah. Anybody else last contribution here? Somebody who hasn't shared yet? Great, Veronica, then Ingrid, and then we'll move to.
I'm just very sure that I'm just surprised because I kind of thought I knew what I was all about, but just this 5 minutes of thinking about it make me question, and I hear Steve and Dale so clearly. It's crazy. I'm trying not to cry. That's it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's deep stuff. It is. It's deep, important stuff. Thank you. Thanks, Veronica. Margaret, I'm just going to go to Ingrid and then to you. Okay.
First of all, this is really great. I've never written this stuff down.
Yeah, right.
Along the lines of what Steve was saying, you know, I wrote down here that I didn't like being what I call a blue suit boss. When I first became a leader in organizations, I felt like I had to live up to some sort of stereotype. And so was I really being authentic? No, I was being who I thought they all needed, wanted to see, etc. What I, you know, emulating other people and what I saw around me. And I found as I was able to interject more of me and be more myself, that it became easier and better and more fun. And so I wrote down, as a leader, to be transparent so everyone feels comfortable and safe to be who they are, and so they can step up and participate and flourish in their own right.
Heck yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Ingrid. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Margaret, and yeah, Margaret, go for it.
Would you ask these questions when I was younger? I feel older with this question. I feel really kind of grown up. But would you ask? I could answer immediately. I had the huge plans. The plans were the goals, desires, and short-term goals and long-term goals. I wanted to change the world. I remember all these things, and you asked me, I would probably, I don't need this 5 minutes. Would I younger? But today, I need more than 5 minutes. And I think that all things, they narrow it to the day, actually. So I live that day, I'm happy. Everybody is healthy in my family, I'm happy. And I think all the goals and my desires, they just became so small. They became so grounded. And I don't know what happens to me.
Well, I think part of it is as we mature, our sense of what is truly valuable changes, right? There's a lot about like proving, making your thing in the world. And then kind of once we've maybe done that to a degree or not, we've maybe efforted at it for a degree and been like, I'm not getting from this truly what I'm looking for. And then I think we realize that there's a lot, there's deeper nourishment to be found in learning perhaps how to be present with whatever is in our life, those more intimate aspects of our life. How can we be intimate with our life? And yeah, anyways, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Hussein, yeah, perfect.
So I've been thinking, how to say this, and I think the best way I can say it right now is that what Margaret said. But I have lived through an opposite way. When I was young, I was very confused. I didn't. These questions would be a huge challenge for me. And today, for whatever reason, I didn't really think too much about it. In fact, I have identified over the years that I kind of fall in that analysis paralysis mode, and I try to avoid that. In fact, this in this Harry Potter book, there is this object called Mirror of Erised, and in the whole book series, there were 2 things that really fascinated me: Mirror of Erised and Dementors, because they kind of represented 2 things which I could never identify. So those who don't know, Mirror of Erised is a mirror, and if you look into it, you see your heart's deepest desire. I always wondered what it would show me, and, like I carried that thought for a very long time. In fact, like I said, I'm a manager, and we are completely distributed, so we talk entirely through Slack and Zoom. So when I talk to my team, I think of different fun channel names, and I kept the name of the channel as Mirror of Erised, right? And Dementors, because it shows what you're most afraid of, and I could never figure that out either, right? But today, for whatever reason, I had this clarity. I could, without thinking, I just wrote, what came to my mind. Basically, it's like being known in the open source. I may contribute to the open source community, and being known in that, and whatever I contribute, being known for the work that I do over there. And then when you said, okay, does it ring authentic to you, or does it sound flat? It did ring authentic to me, but then I was digging deeper, and then something else entirely came up. I have a passion for photography and traveling and food and everything. It's like, yeah, what I most want is that too. Just being able to travel, meet new people, have a conversation, try out new things, photography, you know, like looking at world through a camera. So yeah, it's and like, you know, I'm playing with the word want over here, not need, right? And I do think, you know, these are like, you know, things that I want the most. So yeah, I think the point was really that, you know, it's like I've been through a different experience, you know, like maybe like 10 years back I would not be able to answer this question at all, but today I think I can.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think the mirror is a really beautiful image, because I think also it changes and it shifts, and there are layers to things, and we think it's this, and then we get that, and then it's actually this, and then or it's not quite that. And so anyways, beautiful. But I do think it's very important to name what is most drawing to you and move towards that, because we can also, it can be a avoidance tactic also to you know, I see that a bit in the spiritual community I belong to sometimes, where it's kind of the ultimate desire in a sense is that state of real connection to a sense of oneness, right? Which is the most nourishing thing possible in my opinion. But sometimes people can use that as a goal, and even though they have other goals, they want to use this as a way to actually avoid meeting the fear of moving towards those other things. So anyways, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to invite you to do out of this, we won't do it tonight, but is to then take a look at what you've written and take a look at your calendar and to look at, okay, how am I spending my time, and where is the alignment or not between these things? And you know, do be kind and compassionate and caring as you do that. It is important to understand that we do what we do. We always do it for reasons. And in a sense, it's never really our fault. We do need to take responsibility for our lives, but we're always acting the best we can. But that can be a really interesting little study. And one of the things to look at as you do that is, what was it here? Oh yeah. So how much time and energy is actually going into what you desire or want most or value most? How much time? And then another really interesting thing to note as you do this is to look at how much time is going to kind of some sort of emotional soothing. So, and I say this as somebody who does plenty of that, so there's zero judgment here. But you know, so certainly what I have experienced is that the more I'm genuinely living in line with my desires, the less I need to kind of emotionally soothe with things like, I don't know, Netflix or like food that has a really high, like either high sugar or higher fat quantity, right? Often those are like sensory stimulation. I'm looking for sensory stimulation to kind of add a richness to my life, that if I'm living more in alignment, I find that need falls away, or a little bit at least, right? No, it's all a process. So that's another interesting thing to keep in mind. Okay. All right. Okay. And I'm just aware we're getting deep into the time, and we haven't even, so I think we'll only do one of the following. I had 2 additional things for us to do, but I think we'll just do one. Okay, so I think we'll let that one go, and we'll go to where was it? Okay, here it is. We'll go to so over on the voice section of that diagram, in that circle, one of so for me, when it comes to communication and looking at the ways we communicate and powerful communication, there are kind of 3 pieces of the puzzle. There's I'll just share again here. Great. Okay, there's oops. There's presence. So, and that to me is the kind of state of being that you are showing up in. So that's a whole can of worms that we will not totally go into. There's receiving, and then there's responding. And so for me, receiving is kind of a vague title too. And then there's kind of, I have a bit more detail on this one. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but so presence being your state of being, receiving being your ability to listen, perceive, and take in. So that receptive ability. And then the third point being responding. So then, and the quality that I think people have to develop is to increase their range of response. But I digress, that's not important tonight. So what I'd love to look at is receiving. So I'm gonna sort of skip ahead here. Oh, no, there we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, so receiving, as I think of it, is your capacity to literally receive resources and supports, right? Because we see skilled leaders are very good at doing that, right? And then also your capacity to listen, take in, and perceive your environment and those in your environment. And then I wanted to do a little exercise here where we look at that more literal act of receiving, because it is a place where often we have resistances or, where questions or doubts or where we let our own evaluation of ourselves get in the way of receiving. So I'm going to exit this screen share here. Okay, so I'd like to, how many of us? 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, I'd like to try this in partners. So Prabha, you'll have to let me know if you want to do this or not. And I'd like to just take, we're at 8:40. So about 10 minutes total, 3 minutes each. So let me explain what a dyad is. Basically, I'm gonna send you off into breakout rooms in groups of 2. And then Ingrid, I know you might need to step out. So do you have time to do this exercise, or do you need to go before we begin? Should I not put you in a group? Hang on, sorry, you are muted here.
Have you got enough pairs?
Well, I can partner with somebody, and I'm not sure if Prabha is going to do it, but no matter what, we can make it work if you do need to go.
Okay.
So anyways, you can let me know or pop out or stay in as you feel.
Here with everybody else, and then I'll bump out.
Okay.
Will that work for you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to send people off on their own. So, but if you need to negotiate, I'll be able to see, and if you have to leave, I can jump into that room. Okay.
Perfect.
So I'm going to send us out into breakout groups of 2, and I'm going to ask that one at a time you share, completing the sentence. What was it here? I resist receiving support when. And if you, as always, if you want to tweak the language so that it lands with you, go for it. But it's about reflecting on where do you resist receiving support. So for example, I did this alone earlier today. I just put the timer on to try to get a sense of how much time we needed. And it was things that came up were, hang on, before I go there. So with a dyad, the idea is that one person is just listening and as neutrally as possible. Okay, so I wanna ask that you not be too encouraging or too supportive, just quiet listening as much as possible. And that in itself can be a bit challenging, but he's very, very supportive. It's actually the most supportive space you can hold for another person. So one person listening, so you can negotiate between you. You can take a moment to maybe just remind each other your names and where you are, and then decide who's going to go first. Then that person is going to have, and I'll send you messages at the top so that you know when to start. And then we'll go for, I think we'll go for 2.5 minutes at this point. And then so the person who's sharing first just completes that sentence again and again and again and again for the full 2.5 minutes. And if you have nothing new to say, you just repeat the sentence or you repeat what you said before. So example, my turn, let's say, I resist receiving support when I think I've done something wrong. I resist receiving support when I don't think I deserve it. I resist receiving support when I don't trust the person giving it. I resist receiving support when I don't feel confident in what I'm going to do with that support, etc. Now, I have spent time earlier today reflecting on it, so those came fairly easily. They may not. You may get to, I resist receiving support when I'm hungry. That's all good. Just go with whatever comes out, and you might say, I resist receiving support when I'm hungry 10 times for the whole time. That's okay. No expectation, okay? You just keep talking and see what comes, okay? All right, any questions? Okay, awesome. And if anybody can't go into the breakout room, I'm gonna create them randomly. Just stay here and then I can adjust, okay? So Prabha, let me know if you are going to participate, and Nicole, you too.
Ruth, I'll stay in here in the main room.
Okay, all right. Okay, and what about you, Nicole? You gonna dive into the exercise or do you wanna stay in the main room?
Yeah, I'd love to join.
Great, okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. Oops, that was wrong. Let's try this again. Okay, here we go. Okay, so, oops, what did I do here? Hang on, sorry, I think I screwed that up. Sorry, you guys, dang. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording here. Yay, okay, so how was that? Any surprises or insights, anything land in a new way or not?
Yeah.
Anybody want to share? No pressure, but you're invited to if you want to. Yeah, Margaret.
We ended at the sentence when I actually don't want to mix it up with when it's support became to be advice. So when I resist receiving support, that means do I resist receive advice as well? So sometimes advice it's also could be support.
It could be. I'm not a huge fan of advice myself, but but it could be. It could be. It's often somebody trying to be supportive at the least. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts or anything anybody wants to share? Yeah, Hussein.
I joke around a lot. So the first thing I would say is that no, you should be listening to advice. That's my advice to all of you.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, we're talking, Dale and me, we were talking, and I think I realized in myself that that I would get annoyed when I was trying to resist support or advice someone to me that gives it to me. I would get annoyed, and I would know that those moments. I would recognize it at those times. But this space of 2.5 minutes made me dig a lot more into that. Okay, like what are the other, why do I get annoyed at those times? When I'm like listening to someone, why do I get annoyed? And like I just basically dug deeper into that, and that was a discovery for me.
Nice. Okay, cool. So you discovered there were moments where you're getting annoyed where somebody's trying to help you and you're not totally sure why you're getting annoyed. Is that what you were sharing?
No, not exactly. I mean, I would know that I'm getting annoyed because, I like, what you just said about advice and unsolicited advice. I don't care for it, and especially in certain circumstances when I know that I've already tried it and all that, and I know that it's not going to work for me, but I'm still supposed to listen to it all the way through, and that annoys me. So I knew that, but then like, the space of 2.5 minutes, when I was like, that let me dug deeper into that. Okay, like what are those movements, like what is the underlying reason behind, like, behind that, that resistance, and like, at least, okay, accept it, maybe try it again, but like I was digging deeper in this 2.5 minutes.
Great. Okay. Okay. Right. So you knew the things that you were resisting. You were already well aware of those, and then here you were taking
Some
the
of them,
opportunity to
yeah, and I discovered
love it.
more. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Good for you. Thank you. And I just see Andrea shared here. Areas within myself I can expand upon. Also very interesting convo to have. I felt like a mirroring effect when we were sharing. Yes, this happens in dyads. Yeah, when you're sharing with each other, she let you see things or she let me see things in myself and vice versa. Good for growth. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I find these dyads endlessly, bizarrely powerful in that way. Okay. Yeah, any last sharing or two just before we wrap up? We're almost at the hour. It's getting late out here on the east end of the world. It's very late where you are, Kim. Thanks for hanging in with us. Yeah, any last nuggets or anything anybody wants to say or share before we sign off? Yeah, Dale, go for it.
And just interesting, just a mirror, sort of saying, it's interesting as you repeat it, the act of the repetition actually starts digging into the motivations, and it's surprising what motivations actually bubble up when you actually are forced to think about something else to say. So it was surprising. You know what? Surprising and not surprising, because when you resist support, it is an automatic response. But when you start thinking about why, it's very interesting to think about the why, and makes you think maybe I shouldn't be resisting that.
Right. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Kim, did you want to say? Yeah. A couple last things.
Did you say Kim?
Yeah, I did. I thought, just because I thought you had waved earlier.
No, I think I just
okay.
moved my hand.
Okay, sorry. All right. Yeah, anybody else want to share a last sharing? Okay, beautiful. Well, certainly you have my email, so further things come up you want to share, please feel free. I also do want to invite out of this, especially because we're a small group, I think I can offer, okay, perfect, hard stop in 2 minutes, great. I do want to offer up, I do a free 45-minute discovery call, Your Path to Authentic Leadership discovery call, where we take some of what we looked at today and we just get to personalize it in relationship to you and your life. So because we're not a big group today, I can offer that to everybody. So I'll paste the link in the chat here, but you'll also get an email with it. So please feel free to take me up on that. If you're feeling like, yeah, I do really genuinely want to look deeper at this and look at where I might have some leverage in order to live more authentically and engage in my role at work or in life more authentically and powerfully. Okay, great. And just a lot of appreciation to each of you. Thank you. We're really lovely evening, lovely to hear from and connect with each of you. As a mover, I like to end things with a gesture. So you can do this in your own way, shape, and form. Every movement class I teach, I end this way. But I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes. Big breath in, big breath out. Feel feet on floor, feel butt on chair, feel that ground underneath. Good, great. And then just taking a shape or a gesture, and it can be very simple, it can be exact the one that you're in, that just for you has a feeling of gratitude or appreciation to it. Great. And just breathe into that shape or that feeling. Good. One more big breath in. Great. And then exhale, just letting that go. Okay. Thank you deeply. Thanks to each and every one of you. Go into your evenings well and beautifully and authentically. And yeah, big appreciation to you all. Hope to see you around on various spaces and conversations soon. Yeah, thank you so much, and have a great night. Okay, bye for now.